Sometimes I wonder, is it worth it, my job? Is my job worth it? You can see everyone is scared, everyone running away from the protest because it's going to get violent.
When I came to the United States, I heard from young people the American dream was dead. And I do not believe this is true, and I do not think we can let this be true. Because without the American dream, what do we have? The China dream?
I have faced racism as a Muslim and as a redneck.
Was that true? The Obama wife was a trans man?
Yeah, well, she still got her thing.
Yes?
Yeah, I got a picture.
If you hate liberals, shouldn't you like abortion? Because isn't abortion just killing future liberal babies?
I think that the French and the libertarian, we are the same. Because you have been a political party for 70 years and never gotten one person elected. But it doesn't matter because you exist to protest. And that is very French, huh?
Do you think America should be a blood dog nation without people?
I'd be up to support 100%.
I had a drink with your President Trump, and I had the Jack Daniels, and he had the Stormy Daniels. Do you think that a man, if he doesn't have contraception, would he be considered an active shooter?
What now?
I am honored to be here. I'm from France, as you can probably tell from my accent, and I am so happy to be here on the land of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No, but truly, I do not know what I am doing here, because I am a journalist. It's a Canal News in France, and I am here for this holy year to do the U.S. election.
Thank you all so much for coming. Truly, this is going to be a fascinating show because I can see every single one of your faces. I'm gonna know exactly when you find something funny and when you don't.
No, I'm so happy to be back in Des Moines. It's been like 2 years since I've done shows in Des Moines, and last weekend I did a show at the Funny Bone. Anyone go to the Funny Bone? Oh yeah. All right, 2 people, comedy fans. That's good to know. The rest of you, I don't know if you know what you're in for, but this is a show. But I did a show at the Funny Bone and opened for a couple friends of mine who are in town. And there were like nine ladies in like 40s or 50s who came up to me afterwards, and they were like, oh, that was really funny. But I saw them during the show, and they hadn't laughed once. I was like, I'm back in the Midwest for sure. I most recently came back from Atlanta. I graduated college in Atlanta, and Atlanta is the only place in America where I get catcalled. A woman comes down the street, she's like, you look like Chandler from Friends Fraternity Edition. I was like, I just hope it's season 1. No, I'm so happy to be back in the Midwest, though. It's nice being home, being close to family. Who was here at the last show that I did in Iowa, like 2 years ago? You were here? Okay, so this is the song that I ended on. And thank you all so much for coming back, by the way.
Hi, I'm a millennial, and I'm pretty lame. Internet stores and video stores were pretty much my game. I was the bane of the early 2000s, but I'm woke, now I'm all about it. You can follow me on Twitter, but don't scroll too far, otherwise you might find that tweet where I compared women to used cars. Just want to clarify, that was my older cousin, not me. I'm seeing a lot of serious faces out there. They're like, you compared women to cars? Generational gaps. Sometimes they really make me mad. Generational gaps cause so many problems I never really needed to have. Hi, I'm a boomer, and I'm really impatient, and I have the values of Satan, and I don't sing because singing is for pussies. What, I can't say that anymore? Is that not politically correct or whatever? I can say what I want. Obama isn't even from here. Generational gaps. sometimes they make me amazed that all of us could come from the same place. What's up, TikTok? I'm Gen Z. Trends. Sheesh! If you didn't get any of that, that puts you in the millennial or older category. You say that I'm self-obsessed or too into my phone, and I hate it when I am with people, but I can't stand being alone. I'm told I need to solve all of the problems of the world, but that's a lot of pressure for still young boys and girls and non-gender conforming or gender neutral people or people who don't believe gender is a thing. I said that in Arkansas, and they liked it just about as much as you guys did. And I'm sorry to the kids, someday I will offend how I make fun of boomers. I'm a punchline to them. I wonder if they'll judge me for the way I flew in planes, or make fun of how I say things in my old-timey name. I wonder if they'll look at MMA as so violent, or a state of civil rights, and wonder how we could stay silent. These generational gaps. Well, thank you so much. I kind of feel like I'm giving a TED Talk right now. If you're waiting for any philosophical insights, they are not coming. So I am Gen Z, and I feel like Gen Z is a good nickname because this is the end. But actually, it's kind of a dead-end nickname, right? Like, where do we go from here? Generation AA? Generation Ah? No, it is a very dead-end nickname, though. I feel like Generation AA makes sense, though, because like they were like stuck inside during COVID, all like really good with technology but have no social skills. So maybe Generation AA makes sense. It stands for almost autistic. That's as bad as this show's gonna get, trust me. I know I built this as a clean show. I can see some of your faces like, we're teachers, and that's not appropriate. I did turn 25 recently, though, and being 25 is kind of weird because most of my friends are like, I've turned 25, I'm starting to feel so old. I've never really felt like 25 was old. The only time I've ever felt old is when I started to like pistachios. Because that's definitely like the old people nut. No, I did turn 25 recently, though, and I was diagnosed as dyslexic, which is crazy that it was so late in my life, because all the signs were there. I just couldn't read them. If you were expecting another song, there's not going to be one. This is just me playing piano. The actual reason I wanted to do this back in Des Moines and record this now is because for the past 9 months, I have been pretending to be a French news reporter named Laurant. Has anyone seen any of that content? I'm going to look at the 5 people from Gen Z here. All right, cool. So for those of you who haven't seen this, there's this new thing called the internet. All the kids are on it, and they're using it to make fun of older people. For the past 9 months, I've been pretending to be a French news reporter and going to all of these major political rallies, events, and sneaking into as many major things as I can. And it has gone a little too far. But it started here in Iowa for the Iowa caucus, where Vivek Ramaswamy, we got any Vivek Ramaswamy fans? Yeah, too. Well, he did not like this. He had a major political rally in Fort Dodge, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna see what I can do as Louis Laurent. And so I dressed up in my French suit character, put on the French accent, and walked up to his press secretary and was like, hello, my name is Louis Laurent. I am here for the French news, Canal News, and I was wondering if I could have a little interview with Mr. Vivek. And she looked at me and she was like, yeah, absolutely. Any publicity is good publicity. Which is an insane thing to say during a political campaign. And so I walked straight into their press pit. And I think they thought about it for a little bit because it was MSNBC, ABC, Fox News, and me. And my dad, who was filming me on our phone. And they had one of their assistants come over and she's like, hey, could you tell us one more time, what news outlet are you here with? And I was like, well, I am with the Canal News, which literally in French translates to news channel. And she was like, oh, that's great. Could you show us your website? And I was like, oh. Well, little did they know that 2 hours earlier, I had made a fake French news website called Canal News. And it was literally just a screenshot of CNN blurred out with big block letters that said, content not available in your country. So she took one look at that and was like, perfect, here's Vivek. And so Vivek Ramaswamy walks over, and I knew I had like one shot before Fox and MSNBC got him into like some deep, important questions. So I was like, Mr. Ramaswamy, quick question for the French. And he came right over, he was like, oui, bonjour. Which, if you want to see Vivek Ramaswamy speak French, he's actually very fluent. It's on a YouTube page called Canal News. And he came over, and I knew I had one shot. I was like, they're going to catch me. This is going to be over. And so I was like, Mr. Ramaswamy, I know you are a big fan of the reverse racism. And I was wondering, on my flight here, I flew into Atlanta, and my flight attendant, she was black. And she said to me, you know, you have a nice white ass. Is that what you mean by reverse racism, Mr. Ramaswamy? And he looked at me and was like, what? And then proceeded to give a legitimate answer. And so I posted that, and it went viral, which, by the way, the rest of the show, it is a very political show because it's a political world, but it is not political comedy. There is literally no political viewpoint that I'm trying to express besides being silly in a political world. So I posted that clip to my Instagram, but I'd taken everything else off the Instagram, so it was just this French character. And the National Libertarian Party of America reached out, and they said, we think this is incredible. Would you like to come speak at our national convention? Louis Laurent. And I was like, yeah, but who else is gonna be a speaker? And they were like, well, it'll be you on Friday, Louis. They had no idea that I was not this guy. And then on Saturday, it will be Donald J. Trump. And they were like, don't worry, we'll pay you. I was like, I will do this for free. And so in May, I flew to Washington, D.C. in the basement of the Washington Hilton and spoke to the entire Libertarian Party of America. But as you can tell, I'm not French. And I'm also not a libertarian. So I had nothing to talk about. And so I get up on stage in front of several hundred people with literally nothing prepared and just fully in character this entire weekend. And I was like, well, they give me 20 minutes, I'm gonna fill it up. So I walk on stage, I was like, hello, National Libertarian Party of America, I'm so happy to be here in the land of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they went wild. They loved it. And so I just kept going, went straight into jokes. I was like, you know, I'm so happy to be here. I got to actually, in my journalistic activity, I got to have a drink with your President Trump. I had the Jack Daniels, and he had the Stormy Daniels. And they went crazy. And so at the end of this, like 20 minutes, I'd gone as hard as I could. I was like, there's no way that they believe that I'm actually French anymore. So I get off stage, and these people come to me and they're like, hey, like, we really enjoyed what we were doing up there. And I was like, all right, they know. And they're like, would you and your French news company ever like to interview Marco Rubio? And I was like, what? Who is doing the research for you people? Like, you can find Osama bin Laden, but you can't read my Instagram bio? Like, my Instagram bio literally said at that time, in English, Stormy Daniels is an industry plant. So 2 months later, I flew back to Washington, D.C. to interview Marco Rubio in the halls of our National Senate. And I knew, again, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get kicked out of here. There is no way that I can actually pull this off. And so I had 5 minutes with him from his vote about contraception, walking from his vote in the Senate to his office. And I was like, all right, we're going for it, we're gonna do it. And so I hit him with the hardest thing I could at the beginning. I was like, Mr. Rubio, I know you said your vote on the contraception. And I was wondering, if a man does not use the contraception, would he be considered an active shooter? Marco Rubio looked at me, he was like, could you repeat that? And I was like, well, if a man does not use the contraception, is he considered an active shooter? And he kind of giggled, he was like, thought about it, was like, no. And so I posted that, and it also went viral. And within 2 days, someone reached out to me and they're like, hey, would you, Louis Laurent, like to go to the Democratic National Convention? And I was like, yeah, I'll go. And so the rest of this show is very non-linear because the rest of my year was incredibly non-linear and chaotic, in which I interviewed some of the most insane people I can think of. I got to talk with Biden, Trump, I got to talk with Harris, I got to meet senators, all sorts of people, because people believe what they want to believe, and apparently the political scheme in America thought that this French reporter needed to be at every single event. So for the rest of this show, I'd love to sort of just like have a conversation about the major stories, and have some videos I'd like to show you of the interviews that I did, if that's all right. Is that okay? At the DNC, which was in Chicago, which, did you guys like watch the news? I feel like this is a news watching crowd, right? Yeah, Gen Z is nodding their head no. Everyone else is saying, yes, of course we watch the news. And so the DNC was pretty intense. Obviously, there's a lot that happened. This is like, the backdrop of this is Biden drops out like a couple of weeks before Kamala's here. So people are going crazy. And I was interviewing people both on the street, in the DNC, wherever. And I kept getting this thing where people were like, I'd walk up to like, hey, can I do a little interview with you for the French news? And people were like, didn't we just talk with you? And people were like kind of mad. And I'm like, no, I've never met you in my life, huh? And then I would do an interview. You could tell that they'd felt like we already had this conversation. And I realized that there was just another French person going around legitimately trying to do interviews with these people who apparently, as you can see here, looked like me, my height, wearing what I was wearing. So this guy's name is Laurent. My name was Louis. And I walk up to this group of people who look very, very odd, like funny, like they're there to protest or do something. I'm like, hello, can I do a little interview with you? They're like, we literally just talked with you. And then this guy turns around pissed, because he's been hearing the exact same thing, but getting my reaction, which people are probably like, you're the dumbest interviewer of all time. And so he turns around, he's kind of mad, and I say to him in French directly, I'm like, hey, I'm an American comedian, please do not ruin this for me. And he looks at me and he's like, that's awesome. And then goes in on the bit with me. And so we interview people together for the next 5 hours at the DNC. And he's great. I text with him once a week. He's still here. He's going to leave at the end of November. And so that added a level of legitimacy to our interviews, because we had two people, one very clearly from France, one with a horrible French accent. And so the group that we had just been talking to, when I started to interview them, they had like a very kind of cagey vibe. Like they didn't really want to like give that much information, and so I wasn't really sure what to think about them. And this is a couple clips of the interview, and these are, by the way, about 20 minutes in, because some of these interviews were super long with people to get to actually what they were thinking and saying. But once this happened, I started to be like, oh, I feel like there's something a lot deeper going on here. So you just take a look.
You are you here for the DNC, or what are you here for?
I am here as a rogue, operating pretty much on my own, as a counter protester of the DNC.
I really do feel like Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush created you in a lab.
Oh, thank you.
You are the perfect conservative male, I think.
But I'm a Northern Democrat.
What?
And I have conservative leanings, but the Democratic Party needs to
You're a
be...
Democrat?
It needs to be purged.
Are you a democratic socialist, or what kind of reforming do you want?
I have
How are you a Democrat?
sentiments that I may or may not be able to express directly, but
No, you can.
I have no cause I'm trying to defend. This is purely
Anarchy.
anarchy.
Ah.
This is fascism.
So then I was like, yo, this is crazy. And I decided at that point that I was going to leave because they were protesting the protest that was actually happening, which was starting to get a little bit violent. So I started to interview someone else behind them about 20, 30 yards away. And what I didn't realize was they were just actually self-identifying Nazis. They're not connected to any conservative movement at all. They're not conservative. They are just the American Nazi whatever group. And I know this because as I was interviewing someone who was a trans person at this DNC, there was a clash between them and the DNC protesters where one of the DNC protesters ran up, grabbed Nazi girl's wig, ripped it off her head. Nazi girl grabbed the DNC protesters' clothes, ripped them off. DNC protesters come up, punch Nazi girl in the head. Nazi girl, tough. She's not falling down. She takes 2 or 3. Another Nazi comes, hits them, and then this happens. So at this point, I decided that it was time to leave. So I went home and had dinner and called it a night. But that was the American Nazi. And the biggest problem that I had was I gave everyone that I interviewed my email and phone number, which was just a very dumb thing to do. And so I am now on the Nazi sign-up list for all of their emails. So if you're ever interested, hit me up. I got the deets. But I'm kidding. I do not go to those, in case you're wondering. I've blocked all of that. But yeah, deeply concerning. All of you look concerned, but I'm fine. Don't worry. I'm totally okay. Everyone ended up okay. There was no one died. It was just concerning. So for anyone over the age of 25, Vermin Supreme is a massive internet celebrity running for president. He's been running for president for the past 30 years. And I was lucky enough to get an interview with him. He's on the ballot in about 5 states. So if you guys want to vote for Vermin, go ahead and write him in. He will have about 1% of the vote, they suggest. But this was very sort of exemplary of all of the things that you would see at these events, and you realize the spread of how far people truly are on these topics is pretty crazy. And it makes me realize Democrats and Republicans in general aren't even that far apart when you compare them to the actual diversity of the political system. So this is Vermin.
What is the message you are spreading?
Well, yes, sir. My name is Vermin Supreme. I'm running for President of America. I'm a friendly fascist. I'm a tyrant that you can trust, and you should let me run your life because I know what is best for you. Yes, I'm a politician. I will lie to you because I have no reason not to. I will promise you anything your electorate heart desires because you are my constituents. You are the informed voting public, and I have no intention of keeping any promise that I make. Yes, I stand for 4 basic platform planks, and they are as follows. Free ponies for all Americans.
Yes.
Now that is a federal pony identification system. You must have your pony with you at all times. I support zombie power. I have a plan to deal with the zombie apocalypse, and that is to harness them for energy sources on giant hamster wheels that turn around like that. I will also fully fund time travel research. I will go back in time and kill baby Hitler.
I'm sure that's the Nazi group. They did not like it. But so we had to talk for 20 minutes, and he's into it, and he will continue to run, he said, until he dies. He's never given this up. Yeah, so anyone going to vote for Vermin this year? No? All right. Yeah, we got one nod. But yeah, honestly, talking with people like Vermin, because there were a lot of people like him around, just people doing crazy stuff, trying to spread crazy messages. I hope he's fully satire. But it made me realize the Democrats and Republicans honestly feel super similar when you're talking to the most extreme versions of whatever they are. Like the mainstream is like, wow, everyone's not that different when you compare it to like Vermin or other people who have legitimate ideas they're trying to express. So this interview was, again, fascinating, mildly concerning, but this man's main message and platform, and his hat, he's not a conservative either. He just has a hat that says relax, it's just a red hat. And he is handing out this is at the Republican National Convention, right? Which was I think it was a week after the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So that was a fascinating experience because the entire city of Milwaukee was on lockdown. Again, I don't know how I got in, but I did. Also, that is what that's for. We'll talk about that later. So that's where this was, and he was going around handing out books, which he'd written about 20 years ago about Catholics taking over the world and how we need to stop the Catholics. And it was like rambling, and I wanted to get something interesting or good out of him as far as a clip and talking to him. And he wouldn't give me anything that was coherent until this moment. So this is his opinion on, on a lot of things. And to be clear, he had been talking about castration earlier. I didn't just bring it up.
That's what made America great. No murder, no abortion, no gays.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, that is very different than France. Huh?
Now, let me tell you something.
We are super gay in France. Would you support maybe now bringing not death penalty, but the cutting off the of the gays?
No, I just leave it to execution. Go back to the original plan of America. If they put them on a big catapult and threw them into a big pond of crocodiles, they would suddenly go, wow, I'm not going to do that anymore.
So my camera guy turned off the camera, which was incredibly disappointing because after this moment, I told him, well, I want you to know I am homosexual. And he left immediately. He was not sticking around. But in the end, I already gave him my phone number because he wanted to send me his book. And he texted me and he said, even though you're gay, I want you to say thank you so much for this incredibly open-minded interview. And I was like, that is the most ironic thing I have ever heard in my life. But so we probably talked with 10 to 15 people like this every single day at all of these events. Whether there was like the pro-life Democrats was a fascinating group of people. I was like, wow, I've never thought that was a thing. Or people who were pro-Trump, pro-Kamala, pro-Biden, whatever. Like there were so many people like this on the campaign trail at every single event. And it led to a lot of really fascinating conversations. All right. So this woman her name is Crackhead Barney. And there's about 15 or 20 minutes of this interview that I cannot show at this, but if you want to see it later, feel free. The interview ended with her just yelling swear words at France. She was like, blink you, France, free crack for everybody, and then left. But she had a crowd, and she has a huge following herself. So this is the Queen of White People at the DNC.
I'm the queen of white people today.
I was wondering, so you are in whiteface right now?
No, I'm a white woman.
Yes. Which white privilege would you like to exercise first?
Oh, you know how the cops be shooting people for no reason? Oh, that's my for some reason, oh my God, but just bullets went flying in Wall Street. I don't know. Is that corruption?
No, that is just murder.
So that went on for about 20 minutes. If you want to see the rest of it, you can come up to me afterwards, but it's very explicit. This last one was actually probably the most interesting to me. I had to follow this guy around for about 15 minutes because at a lot of these events, whether it was Republican or Democrat, whatever, people would not allow you to interview them unless you told them that you were on their side. For example, at the Palestinian protests, at the DNC, they were super careful about media because they were worried about media spin or whatever. And so they literally would quiz you on what your beliefs were on certain ideological topics, and then they would do an interview with you. So I had to go through literally 4 or 5 people. I don't know who this guy is. I'm pretty sure he's not important, but he had a posse of 4 or 5 people who would quiz me, ask what I believe, and then they allowed me to interview him. So please enjoy, and this is one of my proudest accomplishments of this entire year.
I have faced racism as a Muslim and as a redneck.
Yes.
And what they don't understand is, yes, I might be a white person from Texas. My neck turns red out there, of course.
And how do you feel like your redneck identity and your Muslim identity can coexist?
they can coexist because, like I said, a redneck is a blue-collared working person. I work hard for a living. I don't have a dollar to show for it. So me being redneck has nothing to do with me being Muslim.
Yeah.
I'm still a Muslim at the end of the day.
So Biden was at the Iowa caucus, and I was there with a friend of mine who is going to be a politician eventually. And he's like a 6'2", very, very jacked, like strong black guy. We're waiting in line to whatever to talk to Biden, and Biden walks over to me. I'm like, oh, thank you, Mr. Biden, whatever. Like, I didn't really get to interview him because we didn't have time, but I did want to talk with him. And this was also a couple years ago. And then he sees Kyle, and Kyle was wearing a backpack and a white shirt, so you could like just see his entire pecs and like abs. He could tell he was a super fit guy. And Biden just looks at him and goes, "Nice pecs, son," and punches him right in the pecs without saying anything else to Kyle, and then moves on. And I was like, how did we not get that on camera? Yeah, that was Joe. Big fan. I don't care about politics, but big fan of that moment. And then Trump. So we were trying to interview Trump at the Fox News town hall here for the Iowa caucus, and we got super close. We were like maybe. I had a question that could have gotten on Fox, but then they cut it. And so I walked up to Trump afterwards, and what I wanted to ask him, I was like, I wanted to start with a softball question. I was like, Mr. Trump, when are you going to lock up Hillary? And because I wanted him to engage so I could ask him a second question. But as we were getting closer, the Secret Service just kind of they bat down everything. They bat down all the cameras. They bat down anyone who gets close. So I got close, asked him the question. They wouldn't let the camera guy film it. So we didn't get it. But I did get to shake his hand and talk with him for a little bit. And very, very leathery hand. I've never shaken such a leathery hand before. But very charming, too. Incredibly charming. I'm not saying anything about his politics either way, Kamala or Trump. Just a personality test. But yeah, very, very, very open, very charming, interesting person to talk to for sure.
Did you talk to anybody else in the media that
Yeah, that was one of the most interesting things, actually, talking with fellow media people, because so the Vivek Ramaswamy people, once that went viral, I was at the DNC, and the guy from MSNBC came up to me, and he was like, "Hey, you that fake French news reporter?" And I had to decide, am I going to remain in character or am I going to break character and tell him? And it kind of depended on who I was talking to and how aggressive they were or weren't. So I was like, yeah, that was actually just a joke. And he was like, oh, I knew it. I knew something was going on there. And so then we talked for like 20 or 30 minutes and had a really nice time. The most interesting thing for me with the media people was that it was just a job. For a lot of them. Like, I think journalism is an incredibly noble profession and can be, but for a lot of them, they were just at work. And like half of Americans don't like their job. And so half of journalists also don't really like what they were doing. And so you'd see people who would like ask questions that they didn't believe in ideologically, but they had to do it for their job. And that was actually kind of sad to see. And it also made me realize like, you can get away with a lot, and there are a lot of people with very bad intentions. Because like if I had bad intentions, like I worked, so when like the Republicans or Democrats would pay me to do this stuff, they would also pay like 5 or 10 other creators to do this. But those other creators had a very clear political ideology that they were trying to express, or political goals. They were trying to make people look bad. I wasn't really trying to make people look bad. I was just trying to be silly and have fun and like be dumb with a very important context. But I would work with people who would like specifically target or work with, for example, super PACs to have specific messaging. And then the super PAC would pay. How it works, like a super PAC would have a bunch of money, or some political group would have a bunch of money, and they would give it to group number 1, who would then give it to group number 2, which was like a shell corporation. And that shell corporation would then give it to a bunch of creators with directives of like, here's how you can influence the election about contraception or about gun rights or about whatever. And then they would ask for specific messaging. I never did it, and so they'll never work with me again. But they did pay me, and then I just made whatever I wanted to make. Like they would have real specific messaging, and that to me was actually the most concerning thing, because like social media, and that is the way that most of like Gen Z millennials get their news. And so the fact that people that we trust, like creators that we trust, are getting paid
to have specific ideological messaging around certain topics, especially around this time of year and the election, that was like the most kind of concerning thing of like, man, people do sometimes have bad intention and just go around and do this stuff. So this, in high school, in 2016, I made a political art exhibit of political comedy, and I had always wanted to see what actual election people would think of it. And I had a Hillary piece, but it got lost in the mail on the way back from the RNC. So at the RNC, obviously it was very shut down with everything that happened to Trump. And so the security was super tight, but they would let people in if you were part of the press or whatever. And so I told them, I was like, hey, I'm here to do a French art exhibit about this election. I have this painting of Trump and a painting of Hillary Clinton and Biden. And I had like a car with all the paintings in them. And so they went and they inspected them. They looked at this painting and let it in. So this is my painting of Donald Trump as a naked mole rat, with which I then elicited as many reactions as I could from Republicans, and they did not like it. They loved the Hillary equivalent, which was a cubist version of Hillary Clinton. But yeah, so the Secret Service thought this was fine to bring into the RNC. And this is Trump, and we have a full video of that online on Canal News if you want to see it. But yeah, this is Trump as a naked mole rat in a cubist-inspired political art piece. It's called The Emperor Has No Clothes, and it was made in 2016. And it's equally terrifying to me as it is to you. I don't know how I made this, or when I made this, or what fever dream I was in. But I was a 19-year-old in high school, or 18-year-old in high school, and this. So I brought it to the RNC, and people would be like, you know, I just don't get it. And I'm like, well, you know, in France we love the mole. And they'd be like, well, I've been to France and I never heard about the mole. And I was like, well, you've never been to Normandy, I can tell you that, because we are big fan of the naked mole, and this is an honor. This is a big honor for Trump to have this. And then we got multiple people to be like, oh, it's an honor. Well, let me take a picture of it then. And so we got to take pictures of him. And then the last thing that I had in this art exhibit, there was Hillary Clinton, Trump, and then there was a little teeny tiny box with just a picture of Stormy Daniels in it. And the piece was called Naughty America. And as the people would bend over to look into this box, I would just spank them. And that happened twice, and then that's when the police came over and said I couldn't do that anymore. So I'm not doing that again. So this last song, if you were here at the last show that I did in Iowa, I ended with a song, and I said that my biggest fear was to become an influencer, which I have. That has been what I've been getting paid to do for the past 9 months, and so I wanted to kind of end with this song again, because it feels even more poignant now, and what I'm doing. So this is called The Influencer. I hope you enjoy it. Also, can we give it up one more time for Java Joe's? Thank you so much, Tim. If you can hear this, Tim, thanks for letting me do this here. I know this has been a very kind of odd comedy show, a mix of a comedy show, a discussion, TED Talk, but we're going to do another show in a couple months called Classy Country Crazy, which is just like straight stand-up comedy you could see in a church. So very different from what this is. So if you want to come back for that, that'd be amazing. But this song is called The Influencer. I'll do anything you ask, fireworks out my ass, as long as it will make you laugh or make you happy, make you cry. Just give me your time, all I need is a little to change your life. I'm an influencer, and I influence him and her towards anything you're selling. If it's a product or a rebellion, I've got their hearts and I'll give you their minds for the right price. Well, I fight against sexual violence, 'cause complicity is silence and positivity is part of my brand. I work with cancer survivors, and I sell vapes and I sell lighters. I give away cars just 'cause I can, and I try to live my life like a Nobel Peace Prize, JFK or Nelson Mandela. And while I'm out eliminating poverty or cracking jokes with refugees lost at sea, I'm slipping in ads, anything I can sell ya. I'm nothing new, it's just the medium to you. I was on a radio and TV from 1910 to Gen Z. We're just getting better, so don't be mad at me for giving you what you want, but not what you need. I'm an influencer, and I influence him and her towards anything you're selling. If it's a product or a rebellion, I've got their hearts, and I'll give you their minds for the right price. Thank you all so much for coming. Thanks again, you're the best. I'll see you later.